So it's about that time we have to kind of say that the Galaxy S10 probably isn't worth buying anymore if you plan on using this phone as an everyday device. Now, if you currently own this phone, then I would probably recommend keeping it for as long as you can. But for active people who are trying to go ahead and actively buy a brand new phone, the Galaxy S10 may not be the best way to go in my opinion, which is sad because honestly, this is probably one of the more important phones probably ever made in the last 3-4 years, but also I think it's one of the best phones Samsung's ever made, period. Now, the main reason why I think this phone is probably not worth buying anymore, it's a few different things, but the main thing is that it's basically unsupported with software. So it's still going to be probably getting security updates here and there, but for the most part, this phone is pretty much going to be done getting software updates, which is a pretty sad thing. I feel like this phone probably could have lasted even up until Android 20, to be honest. The hardware of this thing is still going to be future-proof for a long period of time, but because this thing is pretty much stopping at One UI 4, we're already on One UI 5.1, and I'm pretty sure One UI 6, is coming out this year. It's been the last couple years. So this phone is already going to be a few versions of software behind, and who knows, maybe the next version of One UI is going to bring some really cool things. One UI 5 ended up bringing some really cool things. So you're already going to be buying a phone that's kind of outdated with software. There's really not a huge point in doing that. I've said this for many years now, but by the time a phone gets unsupported with software, it's probably best to move on and probably stop using that specific phone as your everyday device. But that doesn't mean you don't have to, use this phone for other things. If you're planning on buying this phone as a backup phone, let's say you want to have a phone like you're using a Galaxy S21, but you want to have a backup phone, I think this is a pretty solid option. If you plan on just having a phone laying around that you can use if, for some reason your phone breaks, this is a really good option and it's fairly cheap now. On top of that, and one of the more recent or reasonable things I would consider some people buying this thing is if you actually want to go ahead and use this as some sort of gaming device. So if you want to use your Galaxy S10 as some sort of Android gaming emulation device, this is a really decent option. I've seen so many people get really decent gaming performance from the Snapdragon 855 chipset. And clearly if you go ahead and get the newer phones, they're going to be much faster. But this is not that slow of a chipset if I'm being honest. And that is a really cool thing going for this phone. On top of that, you still have really cool flagship type features like that triple camera setup, that hole punch display that still easily holds up very well. I think the cameras on this thing are still pretty decent too. And you are getting expandable storage and a headphone jack on this phone too, which is honestly pretty hard to beat. So even though I wouldn't recommend buying this phone anymore, if you want to buy it as some sort of Android gaming or a backup phone, I think it's a decent option. So that pretty much covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.